Okay, so I'm really excited to introduce you to the first speaker tonight, which is Yana Vlatchkova. She's joining us from Denmark, and she's currently Senior Product Manager at iPaper. And previously, she was co-founder and CEO of Swipes, which is a productivity app that you might know, and it's a really, really great product. And this is also the longer story that she has shared on FemGems podcast, and I'm sure you'll hear a little bit about it tonight. It's episode 11 if you want to tune in after the event. It's a really hilarious and insightful episode, and where you can also learn a lot about, for example, the unusual way that she's co-founded her startup, or her time in Silicon Valley, and much more. But I'm not going to talk more about her. I'll just let her take on the digital stage. So, Yana, welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for creating this great community, and I've already had the chance to meet some of the founders, and it's been so awesome. I always get like, oh, if it existed years ago, like, oh my God, the impact. So I'm really happy if in any way I can help provide feedback to some of you and just support you on your journey. I think it's an amazing initiative. All right, so for today, I prepared like a keynote because I like being prepared, so I'll talk out of it. So I called it Lessons Learned from Success and Failure. And I'm trying to build a narrative around the common problems that so far some of the founders of FemGems has expressed to me. And I hope it will be kind of giving some ideas of how you can tackle them if you're in the same situation. So the background, Dora wrapped it up, so I'm not gonna go into detail, but years ago, 2013, when I was young and not pregnant in 8 months, I got to build a company with my co-founders, and we built Task Manager, personal B2C tool. We scaled it up to 1 million users. It was a very loved app by its users and had all the recognitions and awards it can win. So it was doing amazing. And then we decided how hard can it be? We'll just build another as successful product or even more successful product, because this one we were kind of going for the fast growth pace, and we didn't figure out a business model. So we decided to jump into the team collaboration space. And there we went to Silicon Valley, spent 2 years there working with investors and mentors from all the cool companies that are out there. We were part of the Alchemist Accelerator, which is the best B2B accelerator in San Francisco. And we had an amazing journey, and we ran 3 years in a circle. We didn't figure it out. And last year we shut down the company as we ran out of energy, not out of passion. The passion is still there. Thus, I'm still now part of that community and supporting other founders on their journey. Now I'm part of a local SaaS company called iPaper here in Denmark as their head of product. And we are making e-commerce solutions in very brief. So that's my background. So here are some of the learnings that I think I'm seeing that can be helpful to you and answer some of the questions that I'm seeing across the group. So one of the things is that I'm seeing is that founders, just like when I found the company, we tend to have a lot of passion and want to compensate with that passion for everything. So we throw ourselves in any direction. Every signal is interpreted as an opportunity. So it's a very overwhelming journey. So I've created throughout the years this concept for myself that I'm applying at work, which is called What is the Main Thing, which is a reflection session where I constantly try to get back to the purpose of the whole activity that I'm engaged with, and trying to figure out how is the current thing that I'm working on adding to that purpose. And I'm seeing it from the different conversations with the founders of having a lot of desire to make an impact, but then throwing themselves into 100 directions. And then it becomes very hard to see the progress and have a feeling that you're actually making meaningful steps towards the goals you have. So I always get back to, in all the conversations I had with FemGems founders so far, what is your vision? Let's start from there. Let's start every conversation with what is the vision of your company. And then founders tend to start with the activities they're engaged in. They're like, oh, so now I'm thinking about approaching the go-to-market in that way. Maybe I should build a partnership there. I'm like, forget about it. It doesn't matter. This is a means to an end. Tell me what is the vision. Tell me where you want to be, because the tool of building a partnership with someone or doing an activity and dedicating your very scarce resources is only going to be meaningful to the extent that it actually helps you get to that vision. In Swipes, we were very clear about what we wanted to do for most part of the journey. So it was very binary and it required constant, but despite that it was binary, it required this process on a weekly basis to get back to, oh, if I talk to that person, am I getting closer to my vision? Or if I invest my time in, I don't know, building this pitch deck, am I getting closer to my vision? So it's a constant revision. And I've created this exercise that I'm pushing founders to do, which is, once you know what the main thing is and you have expressed your vision in some way, I always get them back to, now that you know that, the most important thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. That means that you rigorously prioritize all the activities that you're doing on a variety of criteria to see if they're actually getting you to where you want to go. Because I think it's not going to be an overstatement if I say that a lot of you are working on the side and you have full-time jobs or other occupations, your resources are scarce, you're pre-funding, and there is constantly this pressure, either external or internal, to make progress. So when you're in this situation, you need to be even more resourceful than ever. And that, I think, is a good exercise to help you choose where you want to put your efforts. So I always push founders to, okay, if that is your vision, and right now you have 10 openings, 10 opportunities of things you think are important or that require your attention, let's put them on the list, let's write them down, and then let's start rating them. Impact, 1 to 10. 10 the highest, 1 the lowest. How much is it getting you to where you want to be? Is it impacting the vision in a direct way, or is it more like a long-term investment of time? The next one is desirability. Many things that are impactful and great, you naturally don't feel the pull towards, because let's say you're intimidated, let's say you don't have the competence, let's say it's very hard task to do. And guess what? No matter how much you convince yourself that this is very, very important, when the day starts, you're gonna try to push it under the rug and be like, oh, but this thing happened that now requires my attention. I so much wanted to focus on this other thing, but well, I guess I'll do this one first. So there needs to be a match between your desirability to dedicate yourself on something and the impact it can make in your business. And the third thing is the doability. Is it within your scope? Because frequently I'm hearing in some of the stories where, oh, if we do this, and I'm like, but is it you that can do it, or are you dependent on an external partner? Let's say you're highly prioritizing fundraising and you're spending so much of the energy there, but a lot of it is not within your realm of influence because you're in a waiting position for a lot of things to happen. Then the doability, your hands are tied, so you shouldn't be obviously spending your day thinking, oh my God, when they were refreshing email and so on, because that's wasted time, right? So as you can see, like building kind of this system of prioritizing the things and scoring them, it will give you an idea of which idea will give you most impact for the effort invested. The third thing is understanding the user, and that is a very groundwork that needs to be done, because often my background is in marketing and people ask me, okay, so hey, what's a smart strategy, like some guerrilla marketing, let's brainstorm a bit. No, that's like a step down the line, because first you need to tell me about the user, like talk to me about their very emotional needs and reality that you want to fit in and improve in some way. Because unless you understand that, unless you have a very good grasp of people's current state, you'll not be able to convince them to move beyond inertia and get to adopt your product. And I know that we all rush into building products, but building products is only a fraction of the work to be done. Before you ever build any product, you need to spend a lot of time understanding these motivations and needs of the people and be able to solve them in your head or with your very manual work before you can figure out a way how to automate or optimize the process with the product. So this is where I've suggested to the founders I've worked with so far that instead of traditional segmentation, they use the jobs to be done method. The difference here is that it was recently I talked to a founder and she said, "Oh, my target segment is young people between 25 to 35." And I said, that is not a segment that you can, in a meaningful way, use because you don't have the vast amount of budget to invest to really explore that segment. You're going to be shooting in the dark. But look at it. If a person is at 23, their first job, and they want to open a savings account, and they're very motivated and they want to learn about the process of banking and opening the savings account, and a wife that got recently divorced, single mom now of 3 kids, that so far has delegated the whole process of running the budget to her husband. Now she's in a situation where she needs to be the provider and the household manager. These two people have so much in common because their starting point is zero understanding, having the same pain, being in the same situation, and surely you can never hit them by traditional segmentation of being 23 years old, recent graduate, and so on. But you can hit them right there with the right messaging around the pain point because you understand the situation they're in. So I'll recommend all of you to look into the jobs to be done method. And if any one of you needs the resource and the Harvard Business Review article on it, I'll be happy to share it. In Swipes, we knew that if we bash people as just, this and that age group of task management users, we were leaving so much potential on the table because it was such a hard task. Like, we were trying to see based on the signups to kind of get some demographics they were so all over the place. There were all kinds of professions. Some of them were kids from school that want to run their projects. Some of them were hairdresser, saloon. Some of them were a baking place. Like, it was such a impossible task, and I always felt like I'm doing a poor job at segmentation and marketing because I'm not able to get the insights and kind of create this target segment, until it hit me that what's in common between these very different life situations is the state of mind. All these people had a big drive for improvement in their life, regardless what capacity they were in or they were dedicating their life to. It didn't matter if a person wanted to be the greatest plumber out there, or they want to be the greatest manager of a startup. They all had this drive to be a better version of themselves. So that drove a lot of our messaging to be around high achievers, and our brand became the task manager made for high achievers. So suddenly we could build something very relatable to all these kinds of people because we deeply understood their state of mind and what was driving them. So then the next thing I already touched upon is what to build. And I know that when you don't have the technical capabilities yourself and you're relying either on a founder or external partner to build the solution you want, it feels so intimidating because on one hand, you feel you're thinking about it from a user perspective and you're thinking about the ideal case of what this product should do and could do. So you're envisioning buttons everywhere, functionalities and all these things. And I always challenge the founders to go back a step and tell me if they could express in a sentence the problem of this user, how could they help them right now? If they were in one room, how could they make the life of that person better and elevate the pain they had? A lot of cases, it would require a conversation. It would require some manual work and some kind of a special expert skill that you have that the other person doesn't possess. Very rarely, the expectation is for a product. The product is a function of how you're solving and scaling the solution to others. But it is not the answer if you can't manually, in a very grinding work, solve it on one-on-one. It will be a huge, humongous challenge to solve it through a product because you're gonna overbuild features you don't understand, how they will impact the user, and is there really a need for them? So remember that exercise for yourself when you're sitting and considering the MVP, to ask yourself, what is really the problem of that person? And how, if I could talk to them right now, how could I solve it for them? Can I just create some Excel sheet and can I walk them through a situation? Can I explain it in a video? What is the minimal thing you can do right now for that one person? And then look into the ways of, great, what was the experience of that? Where was their expectation for the things to be solved, and what would make it an optimized experience for them? What was the greatest delighter, and what would make it meaningful for you to scale on? Because then you know what the MVP looks like. You know that, okay, it's actually only this and that functionality that they really need. And for me to make my work easier and to scale it up, I just need to add this and that. So you're way better. Better off this way. So in our case, we knew that a task manager could do many things. You can have location reminders. You can have integrations to billions of services to pull out the tasks from there and put them in this list and so on. But because we understood that these people, the profile of these people and their internal motivations, which was they were driven by progress. And they measured their happiness for the day according to the progress they made. So we built a whole narrative around this emotional state that we wanted to get them to. And the first thing that even the first version of the product had, despite that the app didn't have gazillion of the features that all the other task managers had, ours had this screen that said, all done for now. So once you've swiped the task away, once you've completed it, it cheered you on the completion and kind of got to that mental state of, I got it. Let's see what's next. And that's what I mean. Could we, if we had investigated the market and started by what the competition has, we wouldn't have been done by now, 6 years later, building features to map out to what the competition had and what's the expectation of the customer. But we just purely focus on this very deep understanding of the emotional state of the customer and their drive, and built something that was unique for them. And that was our MVP. The next thing is tracking, analytics. That's another area that's super intimidating to founders. It's just like, oh, like we gotta have a dashboard. All the cool startups out there has a dashboard. What should be on that dashboard? Probably everything, right? I just need to open Google Analytics, plug it into some dashboard, just make some cool graphs, and then try to interpret them in some way. It's a massively overwhelming activity that just makes you feel stupid and not on top of things, because I mean, you can spend like seriously an MBA amount of time just trying to learn what's on the dashboard, and it will still get you nowhere. So it's completely meaningless. What the most important metric, and I wish I knew that, I wish so much someone has told me, and I haven't spent all this time on stupid metrics, was that the first thing and the most important thing in the start is love. Can you get a person to success? Your user you need to get one person. And here is where a lot of the expectation is like for progress, like, oh, but like I gotta scale up. And I'm like, why are you scaling up? You can only scale up something that's a successful model. And success in the very early stages doesn't look like any metric out there. It looks like pure human expression of gratitude and love for what you've been doing. In that case look at this user, he wrote a poem to us. He said, I love swipes more and more every day, and I hope and pray you never go away. That is so sweet. And I could spend months analyzing the churn rate and just dwelling on the lack of progress and having like 90% of people who download the app getting churned. And I'll be focusing on the absolute wrong thing, because the only thing that matters is that we did something damn right if a person took time of their day to write this to us, and more than that, time of their mental capacity to think about it, right? Like we damn did something amazing. And all I need to do is to fuck all the churn and focus on what was the experience that that person had. How can I get that to scale now to another person? Not 2,000 people, not to 2,000 and so on, to another person. Can I in some way replicate that success experience to someone else? And that is what success looked like in the very early days. So if you're at the stage where you're thinking, I'm not getting the results I hope, I'm not getting the growth I hoped, and so on, don't worry. focus on, are you getting some love? Are you getting some real person's care for what you're doing? Are you solving someone's problem to the point where that made my day? And that is success. So then the question becomes, now you've gotten that success. So how to scale up that success? And that's where we all start like, oh, I'll blow out this campaign on social media. I have created this amazing carousel on Instagram. I'll hit them up with ads. You're wasting your resources. Because these things are tools once you understand that success. And once you have that deep understanding of the people, because these people do not look anything like each other in most cases, and you will find them in the most serendipitous ways. So I always send this exercise to the founders I work with, and I tell them, in order to scale up and to figure out what a person does, how to find more of them, the answer is not social media. The answer is go back to that person. Really analyze and understand who this person is. And this is where I'm using an exercise called CORE, which pushes you to define on a number of questions to define your user in huge depth. So you go into the demographics. How do they live? Married, unmarried, happy, unhappy, ambitious. Did they have childhood problems? Which university did they graduate? Where do they live? Where do they work? And you build as much personal narrative, and it's a little bit like being a director of a movie, trying to create this narrative around the main character, and you're gonna then throw a casting, and you're gonna be like, oh, is that person like that or like that, and see if that character fits in. Because the understanding of the person beyond the current thing you want them to do is the opportunity for you to reach them and to reach more of these customers, because you suddenly understand you understand how to build a relatable brand. You understand how to talk to them. You understand where are they likely to hang out. A lot of these places would actually be free places. There would be some kind of forum, some kind of local communities and so on, where you'll find people that if you just segmented them by age group and all the other demographic criteria, you would have never found, right? So this is a very useful exercise for you to gain an understanding of the common profile of your user, and then it's gonna open your eyes to a lot of side communities where you can find more of them, rather than going to a traditional way and spending a lot of your energy on essentially promoting blog posts and social media ads to your friends and their friends. And the last thing was around team alignment. Once you have built a team, and when you're at that stage, how do you create what's in your head? Because the passion you have, you can't expect that the rest of the people would have, but you can use various of tools to replicate that purpose for them. And it requires that, first of all, you understand very well the vision, and you're very driven and committed to the core vision you want to create. That is creating a sense of purpose. That is making the others align around it. The other thing is the connectivity, making sure now we are pushed in the COVID times and it doesn't feel right to hang around together. And obviously there are a lot of challenges, but then if you want your team to perform at their best, it's very, very important you pay attention to people's emotional responses to things. You tackle conflicts immediately as they arise. Nothing gets put under the rug. And there are clear expectations that are communicated on constant basis. So no one feels misheard or left out. And of course, there are challenges to do that remote, but do it as much as possible. Do everything you can to bring the team together around the purpose you have. And the third thing was I'm seeing it in the new company I joined. It's so easy to take it for granted that people do good work or people do their best and just expect that this is how it's going to be. But I have found out that just a simple appreciation, it's going to take you a long way and it's going to keep the motivation high. And that is so unnatural when you're a driven founder because you always expect more. You always want more. And you want people to be just like you with as much energy as you're putting into it and to be respectful about all the hard work you're doing and so on. But appreciation is not self-understood. Appreciation is not self-understood. That is very important that you remember. As leaders of your companies and of your teams, it's very important that you always remember, even for the small things, to give people a kudos, tap them on the shoulder, recognize them for the work they do. Because even if they subscribe to your purpose, even if you put a lot of great deal into team building and so on, if they don't feel recognized, it will die out at some moment. So with these learnings, I'll pass it on to Dora. I have no idea how much time I took. I don't hope I overspent your time, but you're always welcome to follow up with any comments or if you want to see any of the materials I referred to on a message afterwards.
Thank you so much, really, for this eye-opening talk. It looks like a lot of people were taking notes during that, which is amazing. You're doing the right thing. And if there are any questions for Yana, shoot now, right now, and don't hesitate. Don't be shy.
Can you define desirability again? I missed that bit.
Desirability comes down to your own desire, basically, to commit to something, to do it. Because if you don't wake up in the morning with, hey, I'm gonna do it, your desire can be, of course, there are hard tasks that seem complex and unpleasant, but you can still have high desire to do them because you can see the impact of them, right? So desire is not just like being this overly cheerful and happy person that is like, just go and do it. But it's, do you have the actual commitment to the task or not? So as simple as that.
Last question?
No, well, maybe yes, I have a one too. I struggle also with prioritizing and to concentrate. It has to be more intuitive, or it's really rational, where you really try to measure what has sense. So that how can I know that I'm arguing me in the right way and I'm choosing the right tools?
So Drina, what makes a 10 a 10, right? That is absolutely subjective, but again, the guiding star is your vision. So a lot of times when I do the exercise with people, when people are like, yeah, so let's say they want to drive traffic, they want to generate more growth. So they start like a blog, a podcast, and they start shooting all these tools. And then I say, okay, so a blog, impact. How much impact do you think the blog is going to have on traffic? And that just puts things in perspective, that a blog is a long-term tool. It requires brand building. It requires an audience. It requires constant efforts to drive traffic. It's a vehicle, right? So it's yet another thing you need to drive traffic to versus a a tool that generates traffic for you. So in a very natural way, you start seeing things in perspective. Once you have the vision and the clear goal of what you want to achieve, is that thing a 10 or not? Yes, it's subjective, but that's as good as we can go at that moment of time.
Thanks so much.